who's joined us in the meeting. Can I welcome you to the Tyseley and Hay Mills online ward forum meeting tonight. I'd just like to start by saying that, there was a volunteer, Helen Begley, her name was. She worked for the Active Wellbeing Society. She came in to help us in the Oaklands for the cleanup in October. Unfortunately, she passed away a few days after the Oaklands cleanup, which was arms around Birmingham, and I only knew her briefly, but my condolences and best wishes to the family, all people who knew her. I mean, she was a lovely person. She spent a whole day at Oaklands with us, trying to do the cleanup in this COVID-19. And the messages and the Facebook posts I've read, she was a lovely person, worked for the Active Wellbeing Society. She leaves a partner and a daughter. So my sincere condolences to the family. Okay, so moving on, please remember to mute your mics and switch off your cameras when you join the meeting. I will ask you to switch both of them on when I ask you to speak. Residents and listening persons in the meeting will be advised that the meeting will be recorded and that a copy of the recording will be available for future records. So we're going to get a COVID-19 information update from Public Health. And Rachel Chapman is on with us. I'll ask her to give us an update and then I'll open it up to questions. So Rachel, if you can unmute your mic and your camera, please, and give us an update. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you very much, Councillor. So I'm part of the public health team at the council. So apologies from Dr. Justin Varney that he can't be here tonight. I think we're covering a number of ward forums. I'll take you through some information and then, yes, absolutely happy to answer questions. If there's anything that I can't answer, I'll take it away with me if that's all right. So I thought it would be useful just to give you a quick update on where we're up to with COVID and then talk you through some of the developments that are happening at the moment. So as you know, this appeared in the world sort of about 12 months ago. It appeared in Birmingham about 9 months ago. And it feels like we've been on quite a journey since then. In terms of current cases and the pattern of what's going on in Birmingham at the moment, our case rate for the last 7 days is 225 per 100,000 people. And that's how we generally monitor what's going on. A week ago, it was 335. And so this is a really positive sign and a message that we're seeing in that the case rate has come down quite significantly over the last week. Obviously, at 335, this was really high. Our rates have decreased by about a third, but having said that, it's still 2,500 new cases of COVID in the last week. So we absolutely still need to be doing all of the things that we're trying to do to stop the spread. So the hands, face, space message, with the social distancing and following the guidance. In terms of our rates, Birmingham this week is the 26th highest. And as I say, we have seen quite a drop, but not as great as the decrease that's been seen in other areas of the country, particularly in the north, where their rates have come down by about a half. And this is why it's so important that we keep up all the good work that we're doing. In terms of testing, our rates of testing have dropped off a little bit, and we would like to keep encouraging anybody who thinks they might have any symptoms to go and get tested at the earliest opportunity. There are plenty of slots available for testing. I know a few weeks ago that it was quite difficult, but that has been overcome now. So it's that continuing message to them, all of our residents, about getting tested if they've got any suspicion that they might have the symptoms of COVID. In terms of local data, I'm just checking my notes here because I asked for this specifically for tonight. Tyseley and Hay Mills has got a rate of 283 per 100,000. So it's actually a bit above the Birmingham rate of 225 and puts you 17th out of our 69 wards. So a little, as I say, a bit above the average in terms of the rate. So I think anything that we can do to increase people's awareness and help them to support them follow the guidance would be really, really helpful. In terms of the people who are getting infected in Tyseley and Hay Mills, it's majority of the working age population. So nearly 3/4 of the cases in the last week have been in the 20 to 59-year-olds. That is fairly consistent with what we're seeing across Birmingham. More in the 20 to 39-year-olds, and exactly the same here. And all of the evidence is suggesting really a lot of this is through social interaction still. Just under a fifth were in your 0 to 19-year-olds, and a higher proportion than Birmingham, in that nearly 60% were in Asian populations. So these are things that we keep an eye on all the time, just to look at the pattern and to see if that tells us that we need to be doing anything differently. Obviously, we've now just moved out of lockdown and into tier 3. So I think we're all getting to grips with the new guidance, which is obviously slightly different to last time. But it's really, really important that we know this. A lot of the spread is through social interaction. So how we can really get on top of this is by following the guidance in terms of not having that social interaction outside of what the guidance is telling us. So I think that's sort of the really key message with this. We have in terms of testing, we have a number of sites now operational in Birmingham. All of them do need to be booked, which is through the NHS website. There's a couple of drive-in sites and I think 9 walk-in sites. Where if you go to one of the walk-in sites, you do the swab yourself. Somebody will sort of watch and support you, but you do it yourself. It's a nose and throat swab. As I say, there are plenty of appointments available. What we're testing for when we're doing the testing is to see whether the virus is actually there. There has been talk over the last few weeks about something called antibody tests, and these are blood tests to see if you've had COVID in the past. So what it's looking at is whether there's any immune response there at all. And these are available for those employed by the NHS and social care, but it's really important to know that this really is only for research. All an antibody test can tell you is whether you've had COVID in the past. It doesn't tell you whether you're immune, and it doesn't tell you whether you could get it again or not. We don't know enough about the virus yet to know, what these tests are telling us. We do know that not everybody who develops COVID develops antibodies. In some people, the body does, but then they sort of decline over time. So the general message we're giving out is in terms of the antibody tests for the general public, you can pay to get one done for about £150 privately. We're not recommending it. At the moment, it certainly doesn't seem to be worth it. The tests that are worth doing are the what we call the antigen tests, which are the ones you book if you've got the symptoms. There's also a lot of news at the moment. There's a new test. It's called a lateral flow test, which you still do a swab, but the test can be done on the actually on the spot. It takes about half an hour, and these look like pregnancy tests almost, and you end up with a line if it's positive and a line if it's negative. These are much more about testing if you're infectious at that point in time. So the first test I talked about is called the PCR test. That is really good. If there's any virus there at all, it will pick it up. This new one, the lateral flow test, works better if there's a higher level of virus. So as I say, it's very good for testing at the time to know whether you're infectious at that point. And these are the tests that are being used with the university students. They're also being rolled out in terms of our health and social care workforce. And we're looking at different ways of using them. Now, this is the test that was brought out in Liverpool a few weeks ago. You might have heard in the news about them offering tests to the whole population. And the key thing that came back out of the Liverpool work was that actually offering it just out to the whole population wasn't really the most effective way. So what we're looking at in Birmingham is how we can target this more effectively to the sort of groups in the population where we need it. So this is it's all happening very much as we speak. We're looking at piloting it over the next few days so that we can make sure it's working effectively. And as I say, then it will be offered out, but it will be in a targeted way. You might also have heard about opening up visiting in care homes and testing visitors when they turn up at the home. And it's this test that we'll be using there and then, because as I say, what it's doing is testing whether somebody's actually infectious. Moving on. It's a really key message about what people can do to reduce their risk of becoming very ill with COVID. We know that some people can have the virus and not know about it, so they're asymptomatic. A lot of people, when they get it, it's a sort of fairly minor infection. They're ill for a few days and then they recover. And then, of course, there is a group who do become really quite ill with it. There is still an awful lot we need to learn about this virus. But what we do know is that there are some risk factors which mean it's more likely for you to become really ill. And we talk about this in terms of the 3 things you can't change and 3 things you can change. So in terms of the things that you can't change, the older you are, the more likely you are to become ill. If you're a man, and if you're from an ethnic group that's not white. So those 3 things mean you are at greater risk of becoming ill from COVID. There are, however, 3 things that you can change. We know that people who smoke are more likely to become quite ill with COVID, which makes sense when you think about the lungs. So if somebody smokes, stopping smoking is like one of the best things that they can do for their health. And certainly at this time with COVID, we know it takes on average 11 attempts to stop smoking. It's not an easy thing to do. But every opportunity, it's worth, if there's anybody you're having a conversation with, if anybody asks any questions, then trying to stop smoking is a really good thing to do, particularly at the moment with COVID. And the services are still available. Obviously, it's not face-to-face at the moment, but there is support available. And we know that people who get support are more likely to quit. Another thing that increases your risk of being ill that you can do something about is in terms of being overweight or very overweight and obese. We know, obviously, this can be a really challenging area. It's not necessarily an easy one to deal with, but we do know that small changes can make a big difference. So just small changes to the diet, starting to do a bit more exercise, and just starting to lose a little bit of weight can actually makes a big difference to your health, and also will reduce the risk of becoming really ill with COVID. And then the final thing that people can do something about is in terms of better control of chronic diseases. We know people who've got certain chronic diseases, particularly diabetes or heart disease, are more likely to become quite ill with COVID. And there's quite a lot they can do with their GP in terms of just making sure they've got better control of the disease. So if you know anybody in this position, it's worth encouraging them to get in touch with their GP and just make sure that they're doing everything they can, because if they've got that control there, then again, they're going to reduce their risk. All of this, we've created some resources called Be Healthy, which is a series of practical tools to help our community leaders and to help professionals across the city to support communities in terms of reducing their risk of becoming ill from COVID. These are all on the council website. And there's, as I say, there's all sorts of things on there around reducing your risk of catching it, infection control, looking after yourself if you've got a long-term condition, increasing what you can do to sort of stop unhealthy habits, guidance, really important actually, around supporting mental well-being and mental health, because we do know that the COVID and the situation we've all been in has a negative impact on some people, certainly in terms of mental well-being. So as I say, there's a whole series of resources there. There's webinars, there's a pledge that you can sign up to, there's a checklist, there's a plan, and these are available in multiple languages. I think the other big thing that's been in the news, obviously, is in terms of vaccines. So there are a number of vaccines in development. As we know, this week, the first one was approved for use in the UK, and this is the Pfizer vaccine. Now, vaccines go through a huge amount of development to get to the point that they can actually be used. There's questions about, does it work? Does it work in the lab? Does it work in humans? Does it work in different people? And is it safe? So all of the vaccines are going through this development cycle. Once we know whether it's safe, we then need to know how long it works for. So actually, is a single dose enough, or do you need to have a dose every year? Like, for example, like the flu vaccine. It can normally take a couple, 2 or 3, a few years to develop a vaccine. Obviously, the work has been going at absolute pace to develop the vaccines for COVID, and in terms of the development, what they've been able to do is, at all of these stages, there's often a lot of dead space where nothing really happens. And because of the need for a vaccine for COVID, they've been able to take out that dead space, which is why they've been able to progress the work really, really well. In terms of the testing, these vaccines, they're testing them in tens of thousands of people worldwide, and all of the time monitoring for any side effects, as well as looking to see how well the vaccines work. So as I say, that all of that is currently happening. We've got the Pfizer vaccine now approved for use. Now, the difficulty with the Pfizer one is it needs to be kept at a really cold temperature. So there is a challenge in terms of working out the logistics of getting it from the manufacturing into the country and then to the vaccine sites. The NHS is leading on all the work to do with vaccines and to do with COVID vaccines, and they've got a huge logistics program in terms of getting the vaccine in, getting it to the right places, and then starting to vaccinate people. The way the program will work is that it will start with the highest risk first. So our care home residents, our health and care staff, and our older populations. And then over the next few months, we'll work down in terms of level of risk. There is the other vaccine there's probably a lot of talk about is in terms of the Oxford vaccine. So that is still going through the final processes, but if it meets all the requirements, should also be available in the next few weeks. And that one is a little bit easier in that it doesn't need to be stored at that really, really cold temperature. Just a few other things just to update you on. We have our COVID community champions. And at the start of this week, we were up to 468, which is absolutely brilliant. And our COVID champions are really sort of useful part of our communication with our communities. So they receive the latest information from COVID-19 directly from us. So they can share it with anybody in the community in any way that is helpful. And then it's also a two-way feedback. So bring information back to us about what is working, what isn't working, what we could do better. So it's just another way of trying to get some of the really important messages out there. We're also in the process of developing COVID marshals, and these are a group of individuals who will be very visible, and it's about encouraging compliance with the COVID guidance. They'll work with individuals and businesses. This isn't about enforcement, as I say, this is about encouraging compliance. I think we'll have 24 in Birmingham, 8 in the parks, and they'll be linked with the bids. And then just to flag up, we have actually a really useful whistleblowing helpline. This is on the council website. Anybody who is concerned at all about any business or situation where they don't feel that the COVID guidance is being followed can report it to that helpline. All of the reports that come through are dealt with by environmental health. So we've had well in excess of 2,000 reports, and they go through all of them, and we look at what we can do, certainly around the COVID compliance, to increase that so that we're sticking within the guidance. So I think the overall message is we all need to keep doing our bit. It's following the guidance, hands, face and space. I know, I'm certainly talking to people, there is a bit of COVID fatigue out there. We've been doing this for months now, but it really is so important. And it's the simple messages. It's the keep washing your hands, cover your face, and keep that 2-metre social distance. And if we can do those, then we're really going to reduce the risk of COVID spreading. It is a long haul, but it's really important that we do it. So I think that's sort of canter through an update, but more than happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Rachel, for that full and comprehensive feedback. I really appreciate it. And I like to say that, you know, public health, ever since we've been doing these board forums, and Dr. Vardy and your team have always come on and give an explanation and update. I'm really grateful for that. If there are any people, residents who want to ask a question, if they can put their hand up or put it in the chat, I will endeavour to get the questions in. While we're waiting for that, Rachel, do you think that there will be a risk of significant spike in the Christmas period, coming up to the Christmas holidays and Christmas period? And do you know how the vaccine, what is the time scale for the vaccine to be rolled out in Birmingham?
So in answer to your the first part of that question, yes, unfortunately I do think there is a risk of a significant spike, and this will be down to how well we're all able to stick within the guidance. The guidance is around those sort of 3 household bubbles, and if the more that we follow the guidance, the less that spike will be. Obviously, we're going to have more household mixing over Christmas, and we're all going to be, there's going to be a lot of this indoors. Unfortunately, the virus loves indoors because it can spread really easily. If this was a summer, and as we saw in the summer, the rates were really low, we were all outside, and our risk of catching it was much, much lower. But because we're going to be inside, as I say, that the risk is higher, and I think we have got a significant risk of a spike over Christmas. So I think as much as we can all do to obviously enjoy Christmas, but try and keep within that guidance, it will, every bit that we do will make a difference. In terms of your question about the vaccine, it is going to take months to roll this out. It is a logistical experience that we've never done anything on this scale before. The NHS have been working extremely hard for the last few weeks in terms of trying to work out the logistics of the different ways of doing it, of how we reach all of our population groups, and the best way of going about it. So as I say, there's a phenomenal amount of work going on behind the scenes, but it's just the scale of this that we need to do, and also bearing in mind that you need 2 doses of the vaccine. So everything that we're doing has to be repeated a month later to make sure everybody gets that 2nd dose. So it's phenomenal.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. I can't see any other questions in the box or anybody's raised hand. Just on the community, COVID community champions, I found that really useful because I became one of the community champions. I signed up, and it's a really good way of getting, you know, the true facts and the right information to put out to people, because there's all sorts of WhatsApp groups and WhatsApp messages going around. So I've found that the community champions, the things we get from your department, they're really, really good, and they're really good to give out. So the feedback on that one is really good. I'm not sure, there is no other questions. So can I just thank you for your time, and thank you for giving us an update. And I know you got other things to do, so we'll move on with the agenda. Thank you very much, Rachel.
Yep. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on the agenda item to local news and updates. And I'm glad to say that we got Fraser from Friends of the Shakespeare Line, who's joined us today. He's going to update us on, me and Fraser have been working on this for a couple of months, trying to get the train stations adopted. And Fraser is the guy who's helped us and showed us the way how to do it. I'm really grateful for Fraser to come and join us. I've already sent out a report that was given by Faye Easton. So Fraser, can I hand over to you? Just give us a bit of background and any information that you want to share with us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Safa, and good evening to everybody. Yeah, just to give everybody an update as to where we are. We've been working very closely with Councillor Safa and the community, particularly at Spring Road Railway Station and at Tyseley Railway Station. We've also now got adopters at Small Heath Station, which is just obviously a little further up the line. And what this adoption business is all about is really enabling the local community to get involved with their railway station and help enhance it and develop it and make it a community focal point and hub. Now, what that means is really down to what the community wants at those stations. And we've been very pleased to see that the 260th Birmingham Scouts have come forward to adopt Spring Road Station. But of course, their adoption at the station is open to anybody. So if there's anybody else that is interested in adopting or becoming an adopter at Spring Road or Tyseley, or indeed even at Small Heath or Hall Green, then all those stations are there and you can come along and adopt. What's adoption mean? Well, it's very much down to what the individual wants to bring to the station. Typically, it's about planting and putting plants in and around the station, but it's not just that. It can be notice boards, community hub notice boards, and other initiatives at the station which are relevant to the locality that the station serves. And we're very, very keen that the community around Spring Road and Tyseley see those stations as very much part of their communities, and we want them to bring what they want to be at those stations to the fore. Now, there is funding for this, and that's obviously important because to back the volunteers up and to repay them for their time and commitment, it's important that in what they want to develop at those stations, we can give them some financial support to do so. The benefits of why we would do this is that the Department for Transport and local authorities see a big benefit in encouraging people to get involved with their railway station, because it heightens the profile of it. And this might sound a little bit silly, but it actually highlights the fact that the station's there and that you can catch a train there and that you can get to places. It's not always readily apparent to people that stations are there, and particularly in some of the city areas, people tend to sometimes drive past and not realise they're driving past somewhere where they can get on a train and within minutes be in the city centre. And that's something obviously we want to push forward with the challenges on reducing emissions and the environmental drivers that we all face. So in terms of where we are with Spring Road, the Scouts have gone through their briefing for health and safety, which is a very short 10-minute event, but that really just assures that they know what they're doing when they're on the station. And we're now working with them with some proposals of where they're going to be planting. They've also got some nature, natural environment, natural history stuff they want to do there, encouraging bird life and various other ecology in the cutting because Spring Road is in a railway cutting, and there are some trees either side of the station whereby we believe we can encourage some habitat there. So it's very much encouraging a green area in there. And of course, those that know the area well will know that there's a lot of housing due to be built right adjacent next to the station where the old Lucas Aerospace factory used to be. At Tyseley, there is a need to do a lot of investment in the station itself, which Network Rail are having to consider at the moment, along with the replacement of the road bridge, which is very, very weak there and has got to be replaced. It's no longer fit for purpose. So that's a piece of work that's going to carry on anyway. But nevertheless, we've got a good group of volunteers that are already started there, some of whom from the Tyseley Steam Trust at the Tyseley Steam Depot that's at Tyseley. And they've started work on the platform with 3 big brick planters that have been there for many years in getting those rehabilitated and planted. And already daffodils and crocus corms have been planted. But again, there are more plans for what one wants to do at Tyseley. And very, very encouragingly at Tyseley, the buildings on the station itself are available for the adopters to reuse and renovate, for which there is grant funding. That's to bring those buildings into use. So there's a possible things like a coffee shop, a meeting place, community sort of get-together place. All those sort of options are open to the community to get more use out of the railway station and highlight it. In terms of the Friends of the Shakespeare line and what we're about, well, we're effectively a small bunch of volunteers drawn from the adopters along the line to try and make sure that we get the funding and the support there for all the individual stations and the station adopters along the line. So the station adopters themselves can concentrate on their station and the practical work that they want to do, and leave the issues around getting funding and getting the support put in place to us. The last point I would make is that it's a fairly unique thing that we've developed. We've called it a community stations partnership because it's 18 railway stations that start at Stratford-on-Avon and go right the way up to Birmingham Snow Hill and Birmingham Moor Street. And halfway along the line at Earlswood, right adjacent to the station, is Earlswood Garden and Landscape Centre. And they have adopted Earlswood Station, but they've gone further than that. They have offered, and indeed we've agreed with them, that they will provide all plants and horticultural supplies for all 18 stations and adoption groups along the line. There is nowhere else in the UK where that sort of arrangement has been put in place or achieved. So we're looking forward to a really fantastic year next year to build back usage of the line, and also to engage all of the communities along the whole section of the line, because what we want to do is encourage people to visit all parts of the line for the different things that those areas can offer in terms of heritage, interest, and various other things. So I'll be happy to take any questions that anyone's got, Safa, if that's the way you want to conduct it, or take those questions afterwards and get back to people concerned.
Yes, thank you, Fraser. Really good feedback. I think it's a really, really good initiative that we're doing here. I mean, I went to see the 260 scouts the other day when they were doing a bit of planting, and you know, all the hard work you did in trying to get these groups together. I really like to thank you for that. So, you know, the vintage trains people, I met up with them as well, and you know, as you said, they were doing the brick planters and all the initiatives you said. I mean, I will work with you, and I will do everything I can to make sure that I support you in that. Any residents, any groups who want to get involved, I'll put it in my newsletters as well. And I've been talking to people as I go around, telling them if they want to get involved. The more people we can get involved, the better. So is there any questions from anybody? I don't think I can't see anything in the chat. But if there are any questions, or if people want to raise any further points with Fraser, I will be happy to feed back to Fraser at a later date. But I thank you, Fraser, for coming and taking the time out tonight and giving us an update. I will continue to work with you, and we'll keep updating the group as we go along. So thank you very much, and good night. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Safa, and thanks for having the opportunity to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, so we're moving on to the next item, which is the West Midlands Police. And I do believe we have the new Sergeant Laura Burke on today, and we got Craig Woolway as well, the both sergeants who look after Tyseley Hay Mills. So can I welcome Laura back to the patch and Craig to the meeting? Is it one of the, if one of you can go first and just give a brief update? Laura, there you are. So shall I start with Laura?
I'll just do a quick introduction of myself and then I'll let Craig do most of the work because I think he's probably a little bit better prepared than I am.
That's fine. Over to you, Laura.
Yes, so I'm Laura. I'm the new sergeant covering South Yardley neighbourhood team following Mark Fellows' retirement early in the year. We are just getting started and I'm sort of getting settled in. So hopefully it will all go quite well. Happy to take any questions from anyone if needed, but that's about it.
Yeah, thank you for introducing yourself. I'd just like to say that, welcome to the area and look forward to working with you. Most of the team in South Yardley I do work with, so I'd like to thank your team because, I see them every day, nearly every day because I live in the ward and, I see Alex, Ali, everybody. So they do work hard. So, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you and the team and look forward to working with you. So I'll go to Craig now, and then we'll see if there's anybody else who's got questions, yeah? Craig?
Hello, Zafar. Good evening.
Hi.
Yeah, so obviously, for those who don't know, I am the ACOT Screen neighbourhood sergeant, so I cover a small part of Tyseley that obviously comes under this forum. So I can give an update in terms of ACOT Screen and Tyseley and Fox Hollies, which is where we cover, which is obviously relevant to you guys. So in terms of our priorities at the moment, for the whole of West Mids, but in particular for Yardley, our priorities very much remain around COVID enforcement, domestic abuse and under 25 violence are our three main priorities at the minute. So in terms of coronavirus COVID enforcement, on a daily basis, we have people that are out dealing with breaches of COVID regulations. If people call us and tell us about specific things that are going on, we have people that are going out and dealing with those. And then on top of that, we've also been having specific enforcement days where you will see that we have a big police high-vis presence in the main sort of retail areas. So Fox Holly shops, ACOT Screen Village, and then wider across Yardley around the Swan, the Yew Tree, Wells Green shops and Stetchford Retail Park. We've had one of those days today where we've had lots of police presence out in those areas and we publicise everything that we're doing on Twitter and via WM Now, and we tell people what we're doing. The message very much remains that we will engage with people and explain what's going on, encourage them to stick to the rules, and then as a last resort we will enforce in terms of issuing fixed penalty notices. We try to avoid doing that as much as we can, but on rare occasions we get to that point where people just don't want to follow the advice that we're giving them, unfortunately. So in the last month we've had one fixed penalty notice that's been issued in the Fox Hollies area. As it happens, that's an individual that we know very well. We'd arrested him the week before for breaching his court bail conditions, so he's just somebody that doesn't want to follow the rules, unfortunately. Other than that, most people, I would say, are following the guidance. We have something called a direction to leave, which is on our mobile devices, which is when we can engage with people. And if we ask somebody to wear a mask when they should be and they're not, then we record it. And we're recording those on a daily basis. I'd say on average, we're probably talking to about 20 to 30 people a day where we're asking them to wear a mask, but that's quite low level enforcement. Other than that, the majority of the people are happy to see us and engage with us and are following the guidance, which is nice to see. So, like I say, on top of that, domestic abuse is a priority. So every day we're tasked with going out and arresting domestic abuse offenders for any outstanding offences. That's something that's going on in the background. And then on top of that, under 25 violence is a priority. So again, you'll see lots of presence around the senior schools in particular, but also primary schools dealing with parking issues and things like that. In the last month, we had an operation called Operation Scepter, which was specifically around knife crime, where we did lots of weapon sweeps, lots of high visibility patrols in parks and open spaces. And in the Fox Hollies area, Tyseley area, we conducted weapon sweeps around Curtis Gardens, round to the flats, and in the alleyway that runs across the back of Nine Stars School from Shirley Road across to Fox Hollies Road. Within those weapon sweeps, we recovered, I think it was 2 kitchen knives in the alleyway and a pair of scissors that was in the gardens around Curtis Gardens and the parkland there. So nothing particularly too worrying for people that they need to worry about. The weapon sweeps are just a tactic that we've got in terms of going out and letting people know that we are taking some action again around under 25 violence. And I think on top of that, aside from all of those sort of priorities, our normal sort of daily business really of burglary hotspots and things like that. Probably the only one that's relevant to this meeting is that we had a small spike around Hollyhock Road, Fox Green Crescent, where we had 3 burglaries reported in the same week. 2 of them were next door neighbours, so potentially linked to the same offender. We put lots of reassurance patrols into the area. We went and gave out some crime prevention advice and some burglary packs, and again put some messaging out via the WM Now service. So hopefully people have seen that. I think that's probably about everything that's relevant to everything that's been going on at the moment. So obviously, if anyone's got any specific questions or anything that you want me to go away and find out, I can come back to you. But that's about it from us.
Thank you, Craig. I've got a question from Matt Ford. Matt, do you want to ask your question, please?
Yeah, cheers, Zafar. Thanks, and thanks everyone for having me. First time I've actually been on this. There's actually 42 vehicles in the Tyseley area, the Redfern Road, Rushy Lane, Wharfdale Road area, that are either on a pavement illegally, untaxed, being driven around, or have no valid MOT. I just wondered what the process was for the police to. I know that your hands are tied with the DVLA because they're quite full with the amount of issues, but it tends to be a hotbed of problems here. And what's happening is when the traffic warden does come round, residents who are law-abiding are getting tickets for parking where they can, whether that be on a pavement or wherever. And it's just becoming more and more of a problem. I mean, there was a car outside ours, which Zafar kindly helped us get rid of. And it had been outside our house for 14 months with no tax, no MOT. I mean, what can we do other than I drag it into the road and it becomes an obstruction sort of thing, which I read online, which was a crazy, radical thing to do. But it's just residents are really suffering, and especially some of the elderly here. I've got an 80-year-old neighbour. She can't get a taxi. You know, anyone's pull up outside the house and she's on a stick and she's struggling. And it just seems it's a hotbed area where a lot of the businesses dump them, and a lot of people who aren't related to the businesses dump them and just walk away from them. You know, what can be done to help with that?
Okay.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
In terms of cars that are untaxed, Matt, we have been through a period, unfortunately, where DVLA asked us not to recover cars for no tax, simply because they weren't in a position to deal with them. I'm hoping that will obviously now start to change, and I know that there are some teams that have started to recover vehicles again for no tax. Like you say, unfortunately, a lot of the recovery yards are full of cars for no tax. But what I would say is, if there's somebody that's parking and it's causing an obstruction, like the one you described, where there's an elderly or disabled person who can't get about their business because of the way someone's parked, please report it to us. So you can either, if it's no tax, obviously you can report it direct to the DVLA. If it's something where somebody's either abandoned a car or they parked it in such a way that we need to go and give them a ticket or get a vehicle moved, then we are doing that and we will do it. So depending on if it's a mine or Laura's area, you can either email one of the teams direct, either to the ACOT's Green team or the Safe Yardley team. You can report it via the web chat and it will eventually find its way to us. That's another non-emergency way of doing it. Or if it's something that's council related, then there's the Fix My Street app, where if you think it's an abandoned car but it's not linked to crime necessarily, then and it's one for the council, then they will go and do it. So yeah, by all means, if you want to go through the councillor to get in touch with us, you can do. If not, then the team's email addresses should be on the website too. You can get in touch with us direct, and we'll always go out and have a look. If it's something we can deal with, we will, and if we can't, we'll tell you why. But yeah, we'll certainly pick it up for you.
Laura,
okay, appreciate that.
Laura, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I was just going to say my PCSOs are back out now, season vehicles for no tax, because we have had permission from the DVLA in order to do so. And you will see on Twitter and things that we are out actively doing that. In addition to that, we're trying to get together a bit of an operation with the DVLA. So hopefully there should be some significant changes over the next couple of weeks. But as I'm sure you can appreciate, we take one untaxed vehicle off the road and no doubt there'll be another one immediately behind it, but we'll keep doing the best that we can. And as Craig said, please feel free to report it to us. We'll get out as quickly as we can to try and alleviate the issues.
Matt, did you want to come back in?
Yeah. Hi there. Yeah. Well, I've got the full list of all the vehicles that, because some of my neighbours don't know how to really go online and report these, and plus they've lost total faith with the DVLA, as have I, really, because it's just a waste of time, because this has been going on. I've been in the area 19 years and it's been going on for 19 years, and it's one of those things. But the thing that concerns me most is a lot of these vehicles are being driven around daily and still being parked in the road, and I can't fathom how the DVLA is an online system, how on earth that can still happen without people getting penalised, especially when it's B11's not the greatest postcode in Birmingham to tax your vehicle, or because it's quite a high cash for crash sort of area. I just don't understand how the DVLA can't be more switched on. If they had a monitor in this road, they'd solve the national debt. Let me tell you, the amount of cars coming down here, it really is that bad. And I know I joke a little bit, but it is a serious situation, and it does get some of the older people really down who've lived here 60 odd years sort of thing. But how can people be driving around with, there's a recovery truck around the corner that drives around every day and it's not taxed and not MOT'd every single day. And I just can't understand how that can be a thing.
Thank you, Matt.
Which road are you talking about, Matt? Sorry, I missed what road it was.
So there's 8 vehicles on Redfern Road. There's 9 vehicles on Wharfdale Road, and there's 7 vehicles on Rushy Lane. Now, on Rushy Lane, it's particularly, they've just been sort of near abandoned. Some of them look like they have. And then there's 18 cars within the area that have got no MOT, no valid MOT. Now, from my understanding, isn't your insurance null and void if you don't have an MOT, or am I mistaken? Is that an old thing now? I'm not sure.
If you want to pass it on to the councillor, those roads you're talking about is right on the boundary between me and Laura. So between the two of us, we'll go out and we'll have a look at that. Pass it on to the councillor. He'll forward it on to both of us, and we can have a look for you.
Okay, I'll forward that to him this evening. Thank you very much.
No problem.
And Matt, if I'm successful with the DVLA operation, I'll give you a shout and you can come out with us and have a look.
Okay, absolutely. That's no problem whatsoever.
Thanks, Matt, for your question. Anything else, Matt?
Oh, no, that's all
Okay,
for now.
thank you. Can I, Laura, can I just say that, and Craig, that, the teams, especially, PCSO, Alex and Ollie, and I've seen them, all week giving out, and, especially for obstructions and things like that. They're doing their best. So, I'd like to thank them, and I will get the details of Matt and I'll forward them on to you both for that. Just on another car issue, the car, these car, what do you call them? Where they come and take the parts of the cars. And there's a national thing going on that, we've had so many cases in Yardley about cars being stripped off, bonnets and front ends and all that sort of stuff. That's quite alarming that, I've had a few videos sent to me that, even my daughter's car got done on Deacon's Road. Somebody just came and just, took the bonnet and the bumpers and the lights off and all that sort of stuff. And that is a real concern at the moment that people are coming with to me. The beggars on the Coventry Road, by Lidl and King's Road, they're still there. But, we've discussed that at the Community Safety Partnership as well. So, we're trying to deal with it. And Craig, number 21 Knights Road. I've sent you an email and you kindly replied to that.
Yes, about the cars that park behind the flats. Yes, I know what you're trying to remember. Yeah. So
those are the kind, those are the kind of issues that are going on at the moment.
Yeah.
So if you want to make any comments, that'd be good.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the parts that are being taken off cars, I assume you're talking about the Corsa cannibal type stuff that's been in the media. That's a national thing, unfortunately. There are particular types of cars that we're finding that people are stripping them at the side of the road outside people's houses. So there have been people arrested for it, and we've given out some specific crime prevention advice as best we can via WM Now. It's a difficult one, if I'm honest, because, like I say, it's a national thing that's happening all over the country. So where we can, we're giving advice to people. There's also the catalytic converter thefts that's going on, that's also been publicised locally. So we're doing what we can around that. Laura, I'll let her update you around the beggars if you want a specific update around that, but it sounds like you're already talking to her about it. And then Knights Road, it's on our radar. We go down there on a regular basis. We have previously recovered stolen vehicles down there, but it's somewhere we go on a weekly basis just to go and check what the situation is down there, and we're all over it.
Well, it's empty now because the whole of the block is empty now. There's new people, but at the back there's still some activity going on, so I appreciate if you can keep your eye on that.
And Councillor, if you'd like me to just interject about the beggars on Hay Mills.
Yeah.
So we are currently working with Birmingham City Council, obviously, in relation to this, and attending meetings on Thursdays to discuss, because as I'm sure you can appreciate, these people are quite, they travel. So if they are picked up in one location and there seem to be an issue in that location, they will move to the next location where they will then reoffend. So we're just working with them, obviously, because quite a lot of the offenders that we've got, or the people that we've got on our patch, have previously been an issue in other locations.
Okay.
So yeah, work is ongoing with that. We'll try and get an operation up and running in the new year in relation to it.
Okay. Lee's got his hand up. Lee, do you want to ask your question, please?
Yes, this is out to that Sergeant Laura. I've received their weekly updates, through the necessary, channels.
Yeah.
The email addresses that they're talking about. Is there any chance that, Sergeant, if you can put it on your next weekly update, some emails, so people can have that sort of information available?
Yeah, absolutely, Lee. I'll take that feedback on board. I'll make sure it's on my next email. However, if you search police.co.uk, you should be able to pick it up from there as well.
Okay. Anybody else got a question for sorry, Lee, did you want to come back?
I said, I know Ollie and them, and if I do see them, I would have asked them for that email address, but now you've told me, I'll have a look. But if you can do that, it just gives it out to everybody who hasn't got to search for it. I know it's getting you to do some work that people need to do, but it might help a little bit better. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Lee. Anything else for Laura and Craig? No? Well, can I thank you both for coming and attending the meeting? Really appreciate it, and we'll keep working together to hopefully make the area safe. Thank you to both of your teams as well. Okay, so we will move on to the next one, housing. And I think John Dunleavy is not here today. He said he would come, but I'm not sure if he's here. He's not here, is he? No. Okay, so in the housing, the Pembrey Road blocks, there's some work going on in there, in the communal areas, and on Berkeley Road, the flats there, the communal area. So one of the questions I've had put to me by texts from residents in Coppice House is how long is the work in the communal areas going to carry on Coppice House and other blocks? This was the question from Leslie in Coppice House, and I said I would put it to John, but John's not here. So what we will do is we will provide that answer to him. One of the other questions he asked was how to watch the recording of the meeting after this has finished, because he couldn't make it to the meeting today. He wanted to know how you can watch these meetings after they've been recorded. Bev, is there any way you can shed some light on that?
Yes, Councillor, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Now, with the recording of the meetings, both on Teams and on Teams Live, our unit, the Neighbourhood Development and Support Unit, we've created the YouTube channel, So what we are doing now with all the meetings that have taken place online, we are going to be uploading them, or we have uploaded them now to our YouTube channel, which is due to go live within the next couple of days or so. So once we've done that, we'll send a link out to everybody, letting you know how to access the YouTube channel. And when you go onto it, you can actually see, I think all the meetings will be on. You can actually choose your meeting, whether it's Tyseley and Hay Mills or another ward that you wanted to have a look at. But all the meetings that have taken place so far will be uploaded on the YouTube channel, and they'll be going live within the next couple of days or so. And there'll also be details on the council website telling you about that as well.
Thank you,
Councillor.
Bev. Thank you very much, Bev. And if you send the link to everybody, then people can access those. On the housing front, I don't think, I mean, I'm sure me, Lee, John from the HLB, you know, I think we've had 2 meetings now on the HLB live, which have gone really, really good. John and Lee have helped me to do a walkabout as well. Me and Lee done a walkabout about a week ago on Berkeley Road, identified the Farrington, you know, old site where there's a lot of fly tipping. We will be, and I've written to the council planning breaches about that. So I'd like to thank Lee and John for helping at that. But there are a lot of fly tipping issues around there. A lot of you know, issues that Lee raises regularly with me, and we discussed those at the HLB. And you know, we're trying to get to the bottom of some of the things that are going on. There is some work going on the flats in the communal areas, which I had a look at with Lee the other day, and they were really going, you know, the stairs and, you know, the painting and stuff going on. Pembrey Road blocks are the same. There's communal work going on, all 3 of them. I haven't got anything else on. If anybody wants to ask any specific question about housing, there is one more thing I'd just like to tell everybody about housing, that, you know, on Tuesday, the 8th of December, we got a sort of Yardley area, you know, sort of mini virtual conference about HMOs and exempt properties, which is being, you know, broadcast on Zoom at about 6:30 to 8:30. And the cabinet member for housing will be there. Jess Phillips MP will be there. It's to do with all these HMOs and private, you know, exempt properties where we're having antisocial behaviour, and, you know, it's a citywide problem that we are trying to address. So, you know, if you can join us on that one, I've got the details, and I've already put these details in the report that I've sent to everybody. The meeting ID and, you know, passcodes are all on there, but if anybody needs that, I will be happy to provide them again. There's no questions. I will move on to Sandy next to give an update on the Tyseley Energy Park. But Sandy, are you around?
Yeah, I'm unmuted now, I think.
Okay.
Am I on screen as well? Yeah.
Welcome, Sandy. Do you want us to share something? Did you say?
Yeah, I'll call for it. I don't know how it's going to work, but it's not too bad. If it doesn't work for it, we'll cope without it.
Over to you, Sandy. Over to you.
Anyway, thank you very much, and good evening, everybody. And I'm delighted to be here. I'm sorry that this year has been so awful for us all in trying to get things done, but things have been moving on, and I thought that it would be a good opportunity to tell you what's been happening with the Tyseley Energy Park, Webster and Horsefall, and the Hay Mills Foundation Trust. To introduce myself, Sandy Robertson, I am a trustee of the Hay Mills Foundation Trust. I also work for the Tyseley Energy Park, and to underline it all, I am also a married-in member of the Horsefall family who run all this operation. I'd like to talk first about the developments at the Tyseley Energy Park, which are probably the most significant and the ones that most people are aware of because of all the building work and activity that's been going on beside the Veolia recycling plant, which you've probably seen or noticed up the Small Heath bypass. It comes in 5 phases. In fact, actually, there's now 6 phases to our development of the Tyseley Energy Park, which is devoted to green energy and developing the green energy technologies and helping Birmingham on its road to zero carbon. The first phase of biomass power station has been built now. It's been operating now for a couple of years at the top of the site next to the Grand Union Canal beside the Veolia recycling plant. That is generating something like 12 megawatts of electricity, which is supplying all the energy for the Tyseley Energy Park, for Webster and Horsfall, and for various other organisations and things around the area. Phase 2 is now coming on stream, which is the hydrogen and electrical low carbon fuel refuelling unit, which is next door to the biomass power station. And with that unit will be refueling all Birmingham's hydrogen buses, which they have just placed an order for. So we are working with Birmingham City Council on that. Phase 3 is now sort of in progress. That is in front of the Veolia building. That is really developing technologies which can help the route to zero carbon and generating new forms of energy which do not involve burning carbon. Phase 4, which is probably the most interesting, is the construction of Birmingham University, the University of Birmingham's innovation hub, the energy innovation hub for Birmingham, which is being located on the site. It is in the process of being built. It is due to be opened in April next year, and it will accommodate approximately 120 students and academic staff working on alternative energies. There's also now phase 5, which is the traditional business of Webster and Horsfall, which has been in business now for 300 years this year. We've been trying to celebrate 300-year anniversary. It's been difficult, as you can imagine, with all the things that are going on. And then now, just recently, we have introduced a phase 6, which is a business incubation hub. We have acquired land along the Fordruff between the Memorial Hall and Haymills and Webster and Horsfall itself, one or two of those units there. And that is going to be developed as a unit for an incubation hub for new businesses, small businesses who are starting out in the alternative energy industry to locate near to the innovation hub of Birmingham University, so that they will have at their disposal or at their as a source the research support and academic support they might need for whatever it is they're developing through the university. So it is a marrying up of the academic university side and the business side, the commercial side. And Zafar, if we can share that PDF now, see what happens. I'll just go through some small slides with you. I'm hoping it's going to be all right. We're going to start with that. We go to the second one. The second picture on that, on there, yeah, this is just a diagrammatic idea of what is actually happening at the Tyseley Energy Park. It's the idea of turning research and innovation, which you see at the bottom, into commercialization, making it come commercially viable. And we've got these 3 zones: the zero low carbon energy, zero low carbon transport, and zero low carbon heat. From waste and recycling solutions. So these are the 3 areas that the Tyseley Energy Park are concentrating on. If we go to the next, we go up the next up to the next page, I think. Can we move that up one? Yeah, there we are. Yeah, this is an aerial view of the site, which gives you some idea of the 5 phases that I've already talked about. 1, you can see there the biomass power station I've already talked about. 2, the refueling station, low carbon refueling station there, with the access now from the Small Heath bypass to that refueling station. Phase 3 is also now being developed for the alternative energy industry to locate there. I believe we have got tenants. I'm not sure who they are, but I think Tyseley Energy Park have signed up a contract with someone who's moving in onto that site. 4A is the Innovation Centre, which you can see up here on the left, the artist's impression of the Innovation Centre, which is being built now. It's got its roof on. As I say, we're hoping that that will be in operation by April next year. 4B is I can't remember what it is. When we have a look at the video, if we can get the video, it will tell us what it is. It's another part that Birmingham University are trying to develop for alternative energies. And that will become another part of the university occupation of the site, bringing in obviously more employment, more jobs, more opportunities, both for local people and for academics and students from across the nation. And then, of course, phase 5 is the traditional factory, still manufacturing wire, steel wire, after 300 years. And if we can go up to the next one, I think we get a better view of how the Tyseley Energy Park, which is the dotted line place, encompasses into the whole of the Tyseley Enterprise Zone. And you can see some of the things. We've got Tyseley Station there on the right, Asda, and the other buildings around the place, the Veolia Park, and then the little map at the bottom of the Tyseley, of the Coal Valley, which I will talk about in a minute. And if we go to the last slide, what I'd like to do is, can we click on that link to show a video on YouTube? Is it possible? Will it let you?
We've started it, so let's see if it does.
Let's see what happens.
Let's put it.
It's very quick, very quick, very quick video, which will take you on a tour of the site. It's rather a nice.
Can you see it?
Can you see it? I can't see it on mine. I don't know whether anybody else has got it.
I can't see it, Councillor, no.
It's not working. I think we'll have to leave it.
I think he said he won't. I don't think he won't share off the council's website.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm not quite sure how to work them. I'm not up with the technology on team, so I'm sorry about that. Can we go on to the slide of the Lost World, Saffron? I can talk about the other things going on.
Okay,
around,
we're just trying to go back to the slides.
Mm-hmm. If you go back to the what, it's the actual JPEG I sent you. The other one, it's a picture of the Lost World.
Yeah, that's the one. Share it. Can you share it?
Yeah. Can I go on?
We're having trouble sharing it, but
okay.
We'll see if we can try one more time.
I'll talk about some of the other things that are going on. Some of might be aware that we have put in Arts in the Yard and Inspired Steps. We've been working with them, Gary Clark and Nicola Toms, and we have submitted a bid for funding to refurbish the Memorial Hall at Hay Mills as a more proactive community hub. And the idea is that more community work and groups can use the Memorial Hall than is happening at present, and we hope to expand out to other things. So it is really trying to establish a workable community hub down at that part of Hay Mills, Yardley, which people can access and use for a variety of purposes. And Arts in the Yard are going to take on the management of that and start to branch out to the community and make it an accessible place for community purposes. You might know that St Cyprian's Church is also looking to reinvent itself as a bigger community hub. We have a new vicar for Hay Mills now, Father Alex French, who has just taken over. And we are looking at ways of turning the church or using the church as a much bigger community hub, where we can take in all sorts of opportunities and organisations. The final thing, of course, is the lost world itself, the Cllr Valley, which many of you will know runs down from the Ackers Adventure Trust place down to the Hay Barns Circus, and then across the road into the Kingfisher Park, of course. But what we are aspiring to do is to completely renovate, re-landscape, and reuse and reshape that piece of land. It's about 70 hectares as a community and heritage amenity, which is going to be much more accessible, much safer, much more attractive, much more usable for the general. And we are working with a number of organisations. This last year hasn't helped matters, I can tell you, because I've been stuck in Warwickshire, in the deepest parts of Warwickshire, and trying to bring stuff together and get things moving has not been that easy. But in fact, Birmingham University is also working on this, and are working at the moment on a principal bid to the ERDF, the European Rural Development Fund, for funding, quite substantial funding, to actually start all this work going, and working with the Environmental Agency, the Ackers Trust, Birmingham City Council, and various other landholders, stakeholders such as Western Horsefall as well, in order to see that through. That is what is happening there at the moment. It is quite an exciting project, which is going to be quite a major project, and will bring quite a change to this part of Birmingham. And I think I'm hoping it is going to make it a much more attractive and accessible and safer place, not only for the residents of Hay Mills and Tyseley, but also for the whole of Birmingham and the West Midlands. And that is really our aspirations for that. Going on to Webster and Horsefall themselves and our 300th anniversary, we've now been at Hay Mills for 170 odd years. But we are celebrating our 300th anniversary this year as wire manufacturers. We've had an exhibition at the Birmingham Museum and Art Gallery, which unfortunately had to close a month after it opened, and is still closed as far as I know. We are hoping to have it open before when the restrictions are finally lifted. We're not closing it completely until April next year, so hopefully there'll be an opportunity for people to go and see it. We'd like to take the local schools up there to have a look at it. There is in fact a virtual exhibition. Birmingham Museum and Art Gallery have got a virtual tour of that exhibition if you're interested, and that concentrates solely on the development of Webster and Horsefall and its wire industry. You might know that it's famous for manufacturing all the wire for the first successful transatlantic telegraph cable. And that exhibition, when it finishes, we are thinking of moving it back to Hay Mills, and we are actively looking at locating it in the Hay Mills offices, and it will be accessible to the general public. And that will be something that we can hopefully build on to expand on the heritage aspects of the site and make them much more of a visitor attraction than obviously it is at the moment. Our archives now are searchable. Although in fact the Birmingham Archive Department has closed again. The Library of Birmingham is closed at the moment for this sort of research on site, but we are hoping that when it reopens, you will be able to search the Webster and Horsefall archives, which are now on their catalogue. So that is all the things which are going on with us. And it's an exciting time in spite of the limitations that have been placed on us at the present time. And I think we are going to be able, hopefully, be able to say that, yes, we are proud to be living in Hay Mills. Thank you, Zafar. If anyone's got any questions or wants to comment or say anything, I'd love to carry on, to expand on any of that.
Thank you, Sandy. I'm sorry we couldn't play the video.
That's all right.
Share the Lost World map that you, the area. But thank you very much for updating, and thank you for what you do for Hay Mills, and David and yourself. I said it in the other meeting the other day, the East Birmingham growth strategy. I said, well, this is an example of how community and how businesses can work together And, you know, I'm really grateful for David and yourself who, I mean, we missed the community day this year because last year, you remember when we had it in February, we had 300 plus people, schools, residents coming and taking part in this. And that was an example in the city, I think, for us. And I look forward to, you know, this exciting project coming. I mean, I walk past it every morning on the canal and, you know, the university building is coming along and it's nearly, I mean, you can't believe that it's nearly ready. So although we had COVID-19 and we could, you know, some of the things have stopped, but, you know, all the community groups, the church, the arts in the yard, everything's, I think we will, you know, next year we will be in a much better position to carry on with the work you're doing.
We hope so.
I can't see any hands up, so I don't think there's any questions. So I'd like to thank you for your time tonight as well. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for giving me the time.
Lee's raised his hand. Go on, Lee.
I'd like to say, Sandy, you're doing a very good job in the area, and I can only, you know.
I wish I could do it better, Lee.
Well, you do as good as you can, mate. You know what I'm saying? And at this difficult time, it's very, very hard. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Thank you. So, thank you, Sandy. We'll move on. I mean, my sort of my feedback is that, you know, my report was circulated with this agenda item that I sent to people. I've covered most of the things that I've been up to in that report. You know, for the last couple of months, what I've been doing. We've done, even in the COVID, you know, we've done some cleanups with friend who comes to help us from Acox Green Bloom. We painted a, you know, sort of fence on the Coventry Road. We took part in the Great British Cleanup, Bono, Khawateen Group, Arts in the Yard. You know, everybody got together and we, you know, we done that. As I talked about at the beginning of the meeting, we done arms around Birmingham cleanup at the Oaklands. I have started my virtual advice bureaus, which are every Friday for an hour. I've attended all the council, the fire authority meetings, the East Birmingham community partnerships, East Birmingham strategy, the police meetings. So I've been attending those. The main issues at the moment, I think, in the board are by far the most largest, you know, thing that we got is the fly tipping. I mean, last month in October, I think I've done about 300 emails regarding fly tipping in various parts of the ward. I do a walkabout in the ward every day because obviously I live in the ward. So, you know, I take a walk an amount of fly tipping that I report. And even this morning coming in to the council house, I saw Paul and Lee, one of our crews, you know, clearing up the fly tipping. Brickfield Road is the you know, it's the worst road in Tyseley Hay Mills. We've had it cleared. I've spoken to enforcement. We are doing something about that, but at the moment, I'm not allowed to say what we're doing. So, you know, there is something going on up there. I mean, some of the points that Matt has raised in the Wharfdale, near the train station, Rushy Lane. I'm grateful for Matt for sending me all those pictures. I've reported them. Wharfdale Road, you know, was being cleared today. So the largest thing that we have at the moment is fly tipping, and I'm working with environment enforcement, with the cabinet member, trying to get to, you know, resolve some of these issues. HMOs, exempt properties, antisocial behaviour, beggars on the Coventry Road. I mean, the beggars on the Coventry Road has been, you know, we've accelerated it to the East Birmingham Community Safety Partnership, where the Inspector Carter sits on there, the housing, everybody sits on there. So we're trying to, you know, find a way of dealing with that. As Sergeant Burke has told you in the meeting, it is an issue that because, you know, as soon as one lot of beggars come, they move them on, next people come. It's like the fly tipping. As soon as we remove the fly tipping, there's more fly tipping. So those are the kind of things that I've been, you know, dealing with. Parking, antisocial behaviour, car theft has been on the rise in Yardley, so I've dealt with all of that. I will take any further points that people want to say to me or want to raise any other things that we should have on the agenda. So I'll open it up to people if they want to say anything. Okay, so we haven't got any comments and any other suggestions. So what we will do is we will have another one of these in January. I will ask Arts in the Yard, Nicola, to come and give a feedback on what they've been doing, and we will update you on the Commentary Road Planters project that is coming to an end. And I will get Andy from the OC's Academy to come and give us a update on the new pantry that was opened today for people in Yardley. You can go become a member of this OC's food pantry, where they only have to pay £4. They become a member, and then they can do their shopping for up to £20 in there, which is a really good initiative. I'll get him to come and give an update. Maybe Gary from Inspired Steps, I can ask him to give an update. So I will get all these people to come and give updates. If there's nothing further, can I just thank everybody who's taken part in the meeting today? That includes all the residents, all the officers, Bev, who's helped me on the organize the meeting, officers, and can I wish everybody a safe and a happy Christmas and a happy New Year, and hope to see you in the new year. Thank you very much. I declare the meeting closed.